Welcome to the Leafy podcast, helping real estate investors and entrepreneurs grow.
Let's start the show.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Leafy Podcast. Thank you again so much for joining us today. We have a very lovely guest that we're going to be speaking with today. Also, I've got Jennifer Garrett on the line with me here today, and she is the COO of Leafy Legal Services. Thank you so much, Jennifer, for joining us today, and very excited to get started. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to you so you can go ahead and introduce our guest today.
That sounds great. Well, I am very excited because we have a guest today that is not just a best-selling author, but he's also a corporate lawyer who specializes in business and real estate law. And his latest book, Loopholes of Real Estate, Secrets of Successful Real Estate Investing, is out on Amazon right now. So without further ado, because we have so much we need to cover here because he's just a wealth and font of knowledge, I want to welcome Garret Sutton to the show. Again, it's Garret Sutton, and his website, I'm just going to get that out really quick so we can have it, is corporatedirect.com. That's corporatedirect.com. Welcome, Garret.
Thank you, Jennifer. Very pleased to be with you today.
Well, I'm excited. So tell us, what made you decide to just do the book?
Well, I had always wanted to write a book, and then I became associated with Robert Kiyosaki and the Rich Dad Advisor Group. And one of the requirements to be an advisor was to write a book. So I wanted to write one, and then I had to write one. So the first book I wrote was called Start Your Own Corporation. It deals with setting up corporations and LLCs for your benefit. And this was back in 2001. So I've been working with Robert Kiyosaki for almost 20 years. And, you know, we travel the world now talking about financial education. There's a great thirst around the world, not only in the US and North America, but around the world for financial education. People realize that they didn't get the message in school. They don't teach it in school. And they can't rely on their government for their retirement. They need to take affirmative steps on their own, like Americans need to do, to build up their net worth and have something for retirement.
Absolutely. And one thing I've noticed is that a lot of people don't realize that for the rest of the world, investing in real estate is their kind of tax haven. It's different for Americans. Our tax havens are sometimes somewhere else, but real estate, especially real estate in America, is always a great investment. So we are very familiar with Robert Kiyosaki. Tammy and I met about 5 years ago. We worked with a lot of digital marketers. We used to do a lot of live events, people with biz opportunities. And then when we do the live events, we always had someone from that organization come and speak, because the entrepreneurs are hungry for this knowledge. They're
Right.
hungry to know what they can do, how they can, it feels so unsafe because we're getting so much information all the time and not all of it is correct. And so it makes people panic. So they want to feel safe, and real estate is a very safe investment. So tell me a little bit about when you were thinking about how to start out for real estate investing, what advice would you give to a new person who's just starting out, whether it's reading your book or other things like that? What's your first little thing of advice?
Well, of course, reading my book is key. So
Yeah.
So here it is. It's called Loopholes of Real Estate.
Here we go.
And I think reading is good. Going to seminars is good. But Jennifer, at some point you have to do it. You have to get out there and buy that first property. And you're going to learn so much from buying that first property. And just know going into it, you might make a mistake or two. I certainly did with my first property. But don't give up. You know, you're learning as you go. And once you understand the economics of real estate and the problems of having a tenant and all, if you keep going, you'll wake up, and at the end of the day, when you're ready to retire, you've got all this passive income coming in. So it just is something you need. I wish I'd started early. I didn't buy my first property till I was, 30 or so. I wish I'd started in my early 20s. And so I would encourage your listeners to just, there's the paralysis of analysis. People get caught up in analyzing everything, and certainly you want to analyze the numbers, but at some point, when you find that deal that makes sense, you should buy the property and start learning how it is, how to invest in real estate.
Well, you had made a good point that most people are very unaware of the advantages to be gained when investing in real estate. So what are some of the main advantages for someone going, oh, I don't know, that's a lot of money. They hear the horror stories because of course that's the only thing you find is negativity when you go on the internet, but there's just so much more positive and so many more advantages. So what do you think are the key ones for someone who's on the fence or been thinking about it, but a little bit skittish?
Well, the key ones in the book, Loopholes of Real Estate, we talk about how to open the tax loopholes, and there are plenty of tax loopholes for investing in real estate. And then we want to close the legal liability loopholes of ownership, because you can get sued owning real estate, but there are ways to protect yourself. So first, on the tax side, the government wants you to invest in real estate. 60 years ago, further back, the government tried to be a landlord. Right? They had all these public housing projects around the country, and they were terrible at it. And in San Francisco, there's still public housing, and they're rat-infested messes. No one wants to live there, and it's because the government runs them. The government does some things well, but certainly they're not a good landlord. And so the government decided, look, we got to give citizens the ability to invest in real estate and give them some tax incentives to encourage them to do that. So the tax code basically says from the government, we want you to invest in real estate. We want to give you these advantages for investing in real estate so we don't have to do it, And so you have depreciation, you have cost segregation. There are all sorts of tax advantages to investing in real estate that the government sanctions. And, people complain about, people getting rich here and there, but the tax code encourages people to take these steps. So why not follow what other rich people are doing and what the government wants you to do and take advantage of these taxation benefits of owning real estate? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that with real estate, you're able to borrow 80% of the amount of the purchase price. You can't do that with stocks and bonds. You're able to put 20% down and you get 100% of the tax write-offs. You get 100% of the appreciation. So the fact that you can use leverage, you can use bank financing, is really a huge advantage for investing in real estate when you compare that to other asset classes. So that's another benefit. And then, on the legal side, a tenant can sue. Well, if you hold title in your individual name, they can not only reach the equity in, let's say you have a duplex, they can reach the equity in the duplex. They can reach also the equity in all of your other assets, the equity in your house, your bank account, all of that. So the law in all 50 states allows us to set up LLCs to take title to the real estate. And if the tenant sues, they can get the equity inside the LLC, but importantly, they can't get beyond that LLC to your other personal assets. So those are three key advantages, Jennifer. The tax system encourages you to invest in real estate. The banking system allows you to invest in real estate and you keep all the benefits. And although there is risk, there are ways that we can protect ourselves using LLCs in the right structure.
Yeah, when talking to new investors, you had said something that really struck a nerve. This thing, well, all these people are rich. Like, real estate investors are already rich. There is this thing that's out there, and I constantly say, no, that's just a strategy anyone can use because it's so available to you. You just go and get a loan. There are even hard money letters for non-owner occupied. It is easier to get a loan to purchase a brand new home or to find an investor to do a property flip than it is to get equity out of your house if you're like already building up other loans and things like that. It's easier to do it that way than it is the other. And if they're not educated, then they just think, well, that's always outside. You already have to be rich. No, you start out small, get your little first property, and then all of a sudden you're off to the races. And learning, but educate yourself first, because the last thing, you know, I would want, or anyone would want, is for that to be a bust, or as you said, not do it under the right structure, or to do it all under your name. Yes, you want to use your name to get the mortgage, and most people will do that, and then they will transfer it off into, you know, the corporate structure they have. We get asked a lot of questions too, because we're basically competitors. But you've got so much information. I just want you on the show. But a big question we get to is, can I buy real estate under my business? And I'd love for you to speak with that, since you're, you know.
Well, I would, you know, if you have a business where you're paying yourself a salary, like, what would be a sample business, Jennifer, that you would consider? A consulting firm, a law firm,
Well,
any business?
No, let's say that someone had a property management company. They have a separate property management company, but they decided that they want, so that's all they're doing. They're other people's houses, and they said, well, why can't we own our own under a property management company? This actually happened with the client. So yeah.
Okay, that helps me. Okay, so with the property management company, you're out there managing properties, and you could get sued for that. And so you don't want a lot of good assets in the business entity, because anytime a business could get sued, whether it's a consulting firm or whatever, you don't want a lot of really great assets to be in that company, because someone suing the company could reach the good assets. So on a property management scenario, you would keep managing through the property management company, and then you would set up separate LLCs for the ownership of the real estate. Now, let's say the property management company needs to rent space somewhere. And so the property management company buys an office building. The property management company you would take after-tax dollars out of the property management company, use it to buy the office building. Then the property management company has to pay rent to someone, right? It needs an office. It has to pay rent to someone. That rent is an expense. So the rent goes from the property management company to the LLC, all right? That is an expense to the property management company. And then the LLC uses that money to pay the mortgage and the various expenses. But in this scenario, the property management company is using pre-tax dollars, right, rent, to buy the owners of the property management company an office building. And that's what I do here in Reno. I have a firm, a law firm, Corporate Direct, as well. And we have our building in a separate LLC, and it is an expense for Corporate Direct to pay rent. The rent goes to the LLC, and the LLC is owned by me. So my business is using pre-tax dollars to buy me real estate, but you're going to do it in two separate entities.
Right, right. And it's very important, I just want to make a note of this, that you do your accounting accordingly. That you need to make sure that your bookkeeping, whether you're using QuickBooks or Zoho or Wave or whatever you're using, that you make sure that there is a consistent paper trail that shows that how that transaction has to go, and you are consistent with it, because that is one thing that can gum people up. I don't know if you've had that in your practice, where people have just dumped it all and they kind of like on the back end, just not really notated.
Well, we don't. Thank God we don't do, tax returns or any of that kind of work. I'll do asset protection all day long, but don't ask me to do taxes. And so we have an in-house controller who keeps track of that, and then we have an outside CPA that oversees her, and it works. But to your point, Jennifer, you can't be doing this out of a shoebox. If you're going to be serious about business and real estate investing, you need a bookkeeper and you need a CPA. And, I personally don't want to do that. I'm not capable of doing that, but there's talent out there. You don't have to have a full-time bookkeeper when you start. You may need someone 2 hours a week. But by all means, have a bookkeeper with you right from the start. If you're not capable of doing the books yourself, get someone aboard that will help you with it. Because I don't know about you, Jennifer, but my time is better spent looking for real estate and doing webcasts like this, instead of doing bookkeeping. And so, go to where your strengths are. If your strengths are bookkeeping, by all means, pass that off to someone.
Actually, I talk to our whole team. We talk about this all the time. What is the best use of our time and talent? So if the best use of your time and talent is on, A, B, and C, why are you doing X, Y, and Z? Like go to the manager and say, you know what, I've spent all this time doing this, but I know that what's going to bring in the money basically and make me happy is to do A, B, and C. That's where my talent is, because you can always hire someone. And there are so many great resources now to hire from Upwork. I think Elance and Upwork are the same. They have some other top talent. You can just go online and vet someone. You can make sure, people get worried. Well, I don't want someone out of some country somewhere and they don't know what they're doing. Well, you don't have to worry about that. You can search, you interview them just like you would anyone else. They give you their CV. It's the same process. And then you can get someone and, you're not hiring them. They're a 1099 contractor and they're actually employed, the way the structure is. It's kind of this little loophole by Upwork. So Upwork gives them their 1099, Upwork tracks it, and they pay a fee out of it because they're having to access that platform. So you're getting professionals that are paying money to access a platform to get a business from you, and they take it seriously. Their ratings are very important. If that's how they pull it up. And so be sure to always, if you have a good one, to rate them well, because that's their bread and butter. But there's a lot of ways you can get the right help that you need, and it doesn't have to break your bank. I know I've gotten that before. Go ahead.
We have this heroic image of the entrepreneur, the rugged individual that does everything. And really the entrepreneur is someone who needs to build a team. Instead of trying to do everything, do what you're good at and build a team that does the other functions well. So it like Robert Kiyosaki says, business and investing is a team sport. You want to have the right team together to help you advance your goals.
That's true. That's absolutely true. Going back to the structure, I was reading over it. What are the benefits of holding property in a living trust as opposed to an LLC? Because we've only been talking to LLCs, but then trusts are another big thing. And I know that I'm a big advocate of that.
Well, the living trust itself is revocable, meaning it can be changed at any time. In fact, it can be changed by a judge in a court of law. So the living trust has its merits. It certainly, I encourage people to have a living trust. The living trust allows you to avoid probate, meaning when you pass, your assets don't have to be distributed pursuant to court supervision. The living trust document says, okay, here's the person who's going to handle the distribution. These are my wishes. And you don't need to go through the probate process, which can take over a year and which, quite frankly, really enriches the attorneys. So the living trust is great to have, but it doesn't provide asset protection. So you need to have the LLC that owns the real estate. And in turn, the LLC, which provides the asset protection, is owned by the living trust, which provides the probate avoidance. So they work together, they dovetail, but I would not hold title to real estate in a living trust.
That's good to know. That's good to know. And you talked about estate planning, having to think ahead of time for estate planning. Assuming your investment property is held in an LLC, can this be given to a spouse or even a designated child upon someone's death?
Sure. So let's say we have title to the LLC, to the property in the name of the LLC. Then the LLC is owned by the living trust. The living trust says when mom and dad pass, the two kids get the LLC interest, right? So we don't have to transfer title to the LLC. The property stays in the LLC, and ownership of the LLC goes from mom and dad to the two kids by operation of law. And so it's a great way to transfer assets. Now, if there is a huge difference in basis, in other words, mom and dad paid 50 grand for the property and the property is now worth $1 million, if they gift it pursuant to the living trust, the kids have the basis of $1 million now. They don't have the basis of 50,000. their basis, they get a step up in basis up to $1 million. So that can be really great. Now, some people would want to gift to the kids during their lifetime, which is fine, but just know that the kids take the basis of 50,000 instead of the $1 million. So there are reasons to do it either way, but having the LLC owned by the living trust, and when mom and dad pass, the kids get the LLC and get the step up in basis. That's a great way to go.
Well, that sounds great. So you are licensed in Nevada and California, and then you have a partner who's licensed in Wyoming. And if anyone's interested, it's corporatedirect.com. And the book, because it has so much information in it, I just want to restate that, is Loopholes of Real Estate, Secrets of Successful Real Estate Investing. And we will have all the links in that, and you can find it on Amazon. So tell me, okay, so do you have like a breakdown of the biggest loopholes that you like to talk about or that you've went over in the book?
Well, in terms of the legal side of things, yes, we certainly want to use LLCs. We don't want to put 20 properties in one LLC because if a tenant sues over one property, their claim is against the LLC that holds 20 properties. They can get the equity in all 20 of those properties. So we recommend that our clients not put too many properties in one LLC, maybe 2 or 3. California, it's $800 per year per entity. So that affects some people's thinking. We have to do a lot more planning for California than for any other state. The other thing that is key, Jennifer, is making sure that when you set up that LLC, that you then transfer title into the name of the LLC. So
this happens a lot for people who do it DIY. We get clients too, and they say, "But I did it." Well, did you do your transfers over? Because we have an offboarding. We have people that work with them, but no, we didn't. And then they don't find out until it's way too late that it didn't matter. They didn't follow through. There's a lot of processes that the actual property owner or real estate investor needs to do after their structure's done. It's not set it and forget it. There are certain things that must occur in a certain time frame in order to get the benefit of protection. So talk a little bit more about that.
Well, we talk a lot about this in the book, Loopholes of Real Estate, because you have to take that affirmative step of transferring title from your personal name into the LLC name. And you're not going to use a quitclaim deed. You're going to use a grant deed or warranty deed for this transfer. And a lot of people worry, well, there's going to be a due on sale clause. The bank's going to call the note. But we never see it happen. You transfer title from your name into the name of the LLC. And the FHA calls this continuity of obligation, meaning when you transfer title from your name into the LLC, the bank still has your personal guarantee. That doesn't go away. The bank still has the first deed of trust on the property. That doesn't go away. So there's a continuing obligation from you as an individual to the bank. So we just don't see that note called. And, you're going to pay the mortgage with a check from the LLC. You're not going to use a personal check anymore. You're going to send in a check from the LLC bank account. And the banks are going to accept that. So it's just never a problem. But as you mentioned, Jennifer, you have to take that affirmative step. Once you've set up the LLC, the next immediate step is transferring title into the name of the LLC. If you don't, let's say you've set up the LLC, but title is not yet in the name of the LLC, you get sued by a tenant. You are personally responsible for that claim until title gets into the name of the LLC. And once you've been sued by a tenant, it's too late, right? It's still in your personal name. When the claim arose, you're still personally responsible. So,
and then it can attach to the mortgage. That happens a lot. And if you were trying to sell or something else happens, then all of a sudden when it comes title, then if they've got a lawyer and that lawyer has decided to put a lien, we see that happen a lot of times. They're like, when did that happen? Well, a lot of times people don't even realize it until they go to closing. And it's because they did things in their own name and people can just do liens. Here in Galveston, where I'm at, I was talking to a lady who worked for the city, and they had property, and they built 5 homes for low-income families. You had to make less than $105,000 a year, and you still had to have nice credit. And they're very nice homes. They're the 18-foot on stilts. They're not going to flood. They're in a neat little area that's now being revitalized. And they go to close on it. Now, it's the city property. It's the city houses. They go to closing, and some guy who is known for this just drove around one day and decided to put a lien against that. And that's all he does. That's how he makes money. And so they had to get their own lawyer and spend money against someone who made this their little side job.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's nuts.
I always complain about California, but in California, if you do that stuff enough, you are considered a vexatious litigant.
We have vexatious litigants here. In fact, that person's not going to be doing
that. Guy needs to be shut down because he's wasting everybody's time and money, and those people should be denied access to the legal system if they're doing that. In California, the vexatious litigant started because these people were suing judges right and left. And the judges did not take to that. So it was pretty quick.
Yeah, I can see judges not liking that. I have actually 2 judges that are cousins in my own family. Yeah, they're not going to put up with that after a while.
The judges pretty quickly got that law through the California legislature on vexatious litigants.
Yeah.
But, you need to have title in the name of the LLC. Until you do, you're personally responsible for the claim. Once title's in the name of the LLC and a claim arises after that date, you're protected by the LLC.
Right. Well, that's great. This is all great advice. Everyone, we've been talking to Garret Sutton, and he is a lawyer and an author, the best-selling author of Loopholes of Real Estate, Secrets of Successful Real Estate Investing. You can go on Amazon.com and get it, or corporatedirect.com and find out about him and his firm. And I just want to thank you so much for being on here. And Tammy, take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Jennifer, and thank you again, Garret. If you do have any questions for Garret that you would like me to pass on, or if you have any comments that you would like to make about this episode, please give me an email at TAMMY, that's Tammy, at leafylegalservices.com, and I will get right back to you, and we will go ahead and air your comments, and I will get your questions over to Garret if you have any. So thank you everyone again for listening to Leafy Podcast this week. And if you would like and to share our show, please do. We're on Spotify, Libsyn, where else are we?
iTunes, Google Play, Podcatcher.
Yes, we're everywhere. So please do get back to us, and we do enjoy having Garret again on the show. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.